So I'll teach firstly about the individual, who you are. Then I'm going to teach about life, particularly the universal laws of how life works, and what you need to have and what you need to know about the universal principles and laws that make life work perfectly well. Once I'm done with those two areas, then I'm going to start teaching people under the personal development umbrella about how to set goals. First of all, we'll start with a few principles. Number one, how to set goals, how to get to what you want to, where you want to get to. I'll teach people, and to do that, you have to have an understanding about the importance of your belief system, the importance of having a good philosophy of life, the importance of your attitude, and how your attitude determines most of the results of your life. And in doing that, I'll relate it back to the mind, because you see, thoughts, feelings, actions, habits, behavior, and results are all interlinked. They're all connected like a chain. If you sow a thought, you reap a feeling. If you sow a feeling, you reap an action. If you sow an action, and you sow that action consistently over time, you reap a habit. Your habits determines your behavior and your character. Consistently, your behavior creates your outcomes and the results of your life. So the key thing is to realize actually that if you want to change the results you're getting in life, don't focus on what you're doing. Focus on how you're thinking. It brings you back to the same point I made about the mind. You really have to study the mind and understand this beautiful, great gem that we've been given. But I'll teach people about philosophy, having your own philosophy, not general philosophy, but just having the right philosophy. How do you process information? How do you understand what is right and what's wrong? Teach you about your attitude. Then you can teach people about how to work, but how to work smartly, not just hard work. Because you see, some of the hardest working people in the world are the poorest paid. If you want to see people who work hard, why don't you just travel around and you observe that some of the hardest working people are paid the least? Now that doesn't seem fair. But the reason it's that way is because we've violated the law. One of the laws is the law of solving problems. The quality of the problems you solve and the quantity of the problems you solve is intrinsically connected to the amount of service you provide and bring to people. If you create value for people, you're compensated. So most people who work the hardest are solving a problem that on the scale, I'm not saying it's not important, but on the scale of importance, in terms of creating value, it's not as important. It's not really rare. So many people can do it. So as a result of that, the monetary reward is quite small. Whereas if you go up the ladder, there are some problems that you would solve for people that is probably in high demand, that most people will value that a lot more. And for that reason, you're compensated a lot more. So I'll start with that. And by teaching people about some of this soft personal development skills, you find that they can change the quality of their lives. We talked about the intellect and the intellectual faculties. And one area we haven't talked about or even mentioned is our emotions. How do we live a rich emotional life? How do we enrich our lives with great and good emotions? How do we fill ourselves up with the right emotions? How do we teach ourselves how to move from an emotional state to another? You do that. How? With the mind. How? Through your focus. Whatever you focus on, that's where you put your energy. Whatever you put your energy towards, that's how you choose your feeling. Because whatever you focus on, you choose a thought. And if you focus on that thought, it creates a feeling. And that feeling chooses an action. So to change your emotional state is a very, very, very important thing. Most people go through life depressed. Why? They haven't been trained or taught how to change their emotional state. Most people grow up with this feeling that everything is against them. The world is against them. Why? Because they haven't been trained on how to use their emotions, how to change their emotions, how to master their emotions, how to recognize emotions and put them into categories. In one of the sessions I taught, I said one of the things I wish my father taught me was that emotions and my emotions will create the quality of my life. So most people go through life and go through the day and they experience negative emotions. Part of the reason is because they haven't learned how to first acknowledge the emotion, recognize the message it's sending you, because an emotion is just a messenger. Categorize the emotion into a group. Am I sad? Am I mad? Am I glad? Am I scared? Those are the four main emotions. Now you can put another two. Disgust. That's probably another one. And surprise. But you need just four categories, the basic categories. Am I sad? Am I glad? Am I scared? Am I mad? Once you have categorized your emotions, then you should have a process whereby whenever an emotion comes through and you identify the category, you already know how the body would want to react. But you have to create another, what I call a system, where you must get the body to react in a different way. If it's sad, then you know you want to make a change, because the sad emotion, you get the message, okay, I'm sad because I feel as though I've lost something, a sense of loss. Great, but I don't want to stay there, because whatever I focus on expands and multiplies. I want to be happy. So you have to create a way to say, well, once my body starts to feel this way, I've got to change something. I've got to change something. How do you do that? You teach people how to use what we call your physiology, your body. Like I can get up now, I can start skipping. I can skip for 20 minutes. And if I was upset, at the end of the 20 minutes, I'm exhausted. My emotions have changed. So you can change the way you use your physical body, and as a result of how you use your physical body, your emotions change. You can change your emotions by changing your mental state, what you're looking at, what you're focusing on. There's so many ways to change our emotions. So I will teach people emotions, emotional intelligence, emotional control, and how to regulate your emotions and how to adapt and live with people. Next, I will teach people about interaction, how to get along with people. Because you see, 80% of your happiness will come from your relationships. Now, this is beautiful, but interesting as well. 80% of your happiness will come from your relationships. So another way you can put this is that your happiness, for it to improve, you've got to improve the quality of your relationships. Your relationship with yourself, self-love. You've got to learn how to do self-love and self-care. Your relationship with others. Now, self-love precedes loving other people. So it's not just about saying, I want to give people love. The question first should be, do you love yourself? Anyway, let me bring today's session to a close because I'm getting too excited and I'm moving in various paths. The four pillars to the education process requires and must, in my opinion, must have, rather should I say, the four pillars of the education process are important. We've been trained, most of us have been trained primarily to focus on academic education and professional education. I say you need two more. You need financial education. Number 4, you need personal development. You need personal development, how you can develop yourself and grow in the various areas of life and categories of life that you think are important to you, within the area of wealth, within the area of relationships, health, well-being, within the area of your emotional control, your emotional development. That's personal development. Within the area of life, we should be studying books about psychology. We should be studying books about philosophy and history. You want to teach people how to read, but not just any kind of book, autobiographies and biographies, how to look back and how to learn from other people. Before you begin the journey of life, the first thing we should always try to do is study. And as part of that study process, you should be a researcher, meaning go and gather information and gather knowledge, and then study the knowledge. Because I can tell you this, we have 7.7 billion people alive today. we've had approximately 109 billion people who have lived. Therefore, whatever you're going through and whatever you will go through in life is not new. Someone else has been through what you will or you may have gone through already. And many of those people capture the experiences in written form. They've written it down. They've documented it. You have to understand how to search and find information, because if it was going to take you 10 years to learn what you need to learn to have the beautiful life that you need to have, imagine if reading a book, you can learn that same information in 1 hour. Think about that. What's the return on investment? You spend a whole 10 years, you fail, you try, you fail, emotional pain, physical pain, wasted resources, sadness, age, and then you arrive at where you want to get to. Or you sit down, you read a greatly documented piece of information, it explains to you what you should avoid, and it tells you what you should focus on. You take the knowledge from the book or the material, you model the information, you apply your own experience, and you achieve the same goal, but you do it maybe in 1 year instead of 10 years. Think about that. That's what we call leverage. That's leverage. So what I wish my father taught me was the importance of getting the ingredients to the success and the learning equation. And that ingredient and each of the ingredients by itself is incomplete. You need all four to have a rounded life, to have what we call the good life. And so if I had the chance to start all over again, if I could do things all over again, I said that the first thing that I would try to learn is personal development. I learn about myself. I learn about the laws of life. I learn about how life works. I learn about people. I learn about history. I learn about psychology. Then I'll move on and say, okay, what do I want to spend my time doing? I have gifts. I have talents. I'm going to have to manifest these talents and gifts. I'm going to try and solve problems. But how do I want to align my gifts? But in doing that, I'll recognize that I'll need to survive. So I need to learn about money. So the financial education will come second. Once I've studied money, and it's not a one-time study, it's a continuous study, but once I've studied money enough to know, okay, what is good income, what is bad income? What are assets, what are liabilities? How does cash flow? What is accounting? How do taxes work? How does the economy run? How is everything set up? What is inflation? Learn about microeconomics and macroeconomics. Once I've learned all of that, then I can make a decision where I can say, okay, great. I already have an understanding about how to communicate, but maybe now I want to further my academic education. I want to go through kindergarten, then I want to move, once I've graduated, through college, then I want to move into professional education, once I've chosen a path that I'm going to follow. I think that is the pathway that we all should have been guided on and thoughts on how to live life. Now, here is what's interesting. Maybe like me, you didn't learn in that way. The question really is, what are you going to do about it? It is what it is. You're here. You already have academic education. If you can listen to me, if you understand what I'm saying, you've got that done. Hopefully, you have some professional education. If you have that, great. If you don't have that, no problem. You're probably better off. Because you see, you don't have to unlearn. You don't have to unlearn so that you can learn the right stuff and then relearn. Now, if you don't have professional education, you could just do things right from now. But irrespective of what you have as a foundation, my recommendation is this. Why don't you start today? Start now. And say to yourself, okay, there are two other parts of the pillars that I do not have. I'm going to start constructing the foundation stone to my pillars. Financial education. What are the great books? What are the greatest books that have actually been written by the greatest minds? I need to have that in my collection. I'm going to dedicate a portion of my money, maybe 5% of my net income, towards professional development and financial development and education. So you start acquiring information. I'm going to find people who know much more than I do within the area of money, and I'm going to become a protege. I'm going to learn from them. Then you should focus on personal development. And you should start looking out for ways to improve yourself. If you're happy with the life you have, you might say, I don't need any more. Well, it's not about you. It's about the seeds that you sow for other people so that they can sit in the shades of the trees that perhaps you and I had the rare opportunity of sitting under. Someone sowed the seed and the tree has grown. And so we've benefited from someone else's willingness to invest in the future generation. So although you might be happy with your life, it's not about you alone. What about the people coming? What could you do for them? You see, the gifts that have been given to you, that you were born with, and that you can develop whilst you're here, is nature's gift to you. What you do with those gifts is your gift back to nature. We journey from eternity into time. We journey through time, and at the end, we journey from time back to eternity. Someone else is coming behind you. Why don't you make the experience easier for them by investing in yourself? So my recommendation is this. Every day, I think, you should set aside a portion of your time. I don't know how busy you are, but I would say at least an hour. 30 minutes is a minimum, or an hour, if you can afford it. And you said, I'm going to spend 30 minutes understanding financial education, because maybe I need to get off this slave ship and this hamster wheel of 9 to 5 every day, and I need to start living. But to do that, I need to know how to make money work for me. So half an hour or 1 hour of your time you spend learning about finances, about financial education, and then you learn about yourself, study yourself. And then in a short while, what you find is that you start learning and growing. Because you see, in life, you're either growing or you're dying. You create or you disintegrate. Nothing stays the same. So there's something called the law of gender. You're either moving forward or you're moving back. So whatever knowledge you think you have, if you think is enough, I would ask you to brace yourself. When you fly in a plane and they say brace, brace. Brace yourself, because the plane is coming down. It's not enough. You need to learn more. Now, what I wish my father had taught me, in conclusion, was the importance of understanding and recognizing that learning comes in 4 parts. The equation: academic, professional, financial, and number 4 is personal development. I would have wished that I had learned the other way. I would have started with personal development, then financial education, then academic education, before professional education. I hope that's been useful.